The citadel vibrated as the power being held within all of the structures sat at their thresholds, teetering on the edge of turning them into more energies to add to the soup everything now sat bathed within. The thuliseak raised two of their hands in unison from all three present, the six sending arcs of magic between them in an unbroken star. "It begins now!" they stated loudly, their voice piercing through the maelstrom of magical energies. As the arcs grew in intensity and size, the glyphs that floated around the citadel burst into life and began emitting prime energies as they burned themselves into the very fabric of the realm. These would be their anchor points, and all those within would be affected by the ritual. In unison, the three raised another hand and formed a new configuration from the arcing energies. And with that, different symbols around the citadel began to glow, as they too were powered up and their purpose now brought forth. Several minutes passed before they raised another hand as one, and another configuration was created. This time the first arrangement of dragons began channeling their energies forth, and now the arcing changed to seemingly solid bands of blinding light, as though mirrors reflecting the burning sun. This was the start of the removal, the ritual of removal, and from here there was no turning back. The air within the ritual area was rapidly infused with the power that was stored within the dragons who had held it, and they fell into a deep slumber as their energies were all but depleted, leaving the bare minimum to sustain them. As soon as it occurred, the next hand was raised, and the energies changed again as the next rank of dragons offered their power to the cause. Again, their power was pushed out, saturating the area, and this time forming a skin across all within. All now shimmered as though covered in gossamer dew. Two more hands were raised, and the power within the chamber elevated yet further. All that could now be seen of thuliseak were three darkened areas amongst the blinding light, thin spokes barely visible stretching from them as their hands performed what was needed. As they remained stationary within, directing the flow, their skin began to show telltale signs of breakdown others of the realm had suffered before their demise. This power was beyond even their capabilities to wield without risk or consequence, but they did have an ace to play, and one they were thankful for. As the energies hit the threshold for this stage, thuliseak slowly raised three more hands, turning their gazes to a spot above them, where they now began channeling with the intent to pierce the planar veil of this prime. They were ready, as they had promised they would be, and now they called upon them to provide the aid they knew they could not undertake alone, at least if they were to survive this intact. "We are ready, chrylsis! Now it is your turn!" Thuliseak continued to channel and conduct the energies of the ritual to where they were needed, and added yet more dragons to the pool of power to be drawn upon. There was a flash of light seemingly from within the eyes of all present, and a wave of divine energy poured forth from them all. Chrylsis had arrived, and was using them as his own vessels to channel his power into the area. Every dragon that still held their infused magic was now a conduit for him to enact his side of the plan, and they poured power forth beyond measure. The true prime began to vibrate, softly at first, but rapidly becoming more and more violent. "You know what must be done!" the booming voice of Chrylsis rang out to all present. Thuliseak nodded as one, and stopped their prior efforts as Chrylsis took control and left them to their true task in this endeavour. They were to keep the true prime fragment in check. They focused their power and bent the energies surrounding them and flowing through them to keep it from breaking from its position. It was more difficult than they had at first thought, although not beyond their ability, but still, they had to ensure they were as one. As the ritual continued, the true prime became ever more violent, and for the first time in millennia the thought had entered their head that perhaps even they, as versed as they were, might be out of their depth. But they could not falter, could not fail, for there was too much on the line. They needed more aid to ensure success, and so for a brief time the second and third raised all their hands to harness the energies, while they reached within themselves and drew forth 4 more of them. They took their positions, 7 in all, and each raised hands to ease the strain from the others, allowing the original to better focus their efforts. Yes, this made things far less likely to fall beyond their capacity to positively manipulate the outcome. The task had definitely become infinitely easier to perform, but with such vast energies they still had to ensure they were attentive to even the smallest fluctuation. Failure would mean the demise of all involved. This was not an outcome they wished to be a part of. And so, thuliseak battled the true prime fragment. The dragons fed his need for power to accomplish this, and chrylsis wove the true miracle taking place, the pushing of this entire realm to a place that lay prepared and waiting upon another chosen prime. The citadel heaved under the titanic forces as it slid slowly through the immense plane of tear chrylsis had crafted between their prime and the destination prime. But although it was going according to the plan they had laid out, there was something that needed to be addressed. Thuliseak reached out to chrylsis and explained what had been done in order to ensure this would work. They had not counted on the arrival of the Nameless, and that meant there was the possibility that this transfer would merely lead him directly to this young and defenseless prime, and this had to be avoided. Chrylsis was stunned as he fought to arrive at a solution. But thuliseak had already got a possible solution in mind, although it was an unknown factor, but they had enough power to make it a possibility. The solution was simple. They would put it exactly where it was meant to be, only not physically. It took a moment for chrylsis to understand what they meant. We create another prime using this true prime in the same way we are anchoring it currently, but we hide it beyond view and senses. A prime beneath a prime, as it were. None would know it is there, and therefore none could ever travel to it without being upon the prime it is anchored to. It would not be a prime per se, but a plane of space created using the true prime fragment as a unique planar anchor. Chrylsis let thuliseak know that this thought was a good one, but needed more. And as you are the skin around this prime, none can see where this hidden prime is being placed, and you are the barrier between first contact with the outer prime. Nothing will know of its existence, and nothing can transfer there without access directly from the erected nodes. It is the safest place we can place them. With that it was agreed, and the ritual completed shortly afterwards. This fragment from a doomed prime would be preserved beneath another, with access by limited paths, impossible to attain access externally of such. The knowledge of its continued existence and ways to access such would be known only to the god, the single entity that made it so, and the ones it was meant to protect. In time, this would change, as things upon the upper prime, as well as additions to the hidden prime, would have unforeseen outcomes. They had created what would eventually be known to the denizens of the prime as the shadow prime, eventually to become more widely known as the shadow realms.